Every morning, same thing. The alarm goes off. You hate it. You shuffle into the kitchen with one eye still shut. You make the coffee, you drink it. And then, maybe 20 minutes later, something shifts. The fog kind of thins out. Your eyes open the rest of the way. The edges of the world go sharp again. And you feel awake, properly awake. Like somebody finally found the switch and flipped you on. And honestly, it feels like fuel. Like the coffee poured something into you that wasn't there a minute ago. Like you were running on empty, and now, look, the tank's full again? Yeah, about that. That coffee gave you no energy. Zero, not a drop. There's nothing in a black coffee your body can actually burn. It's basically 0 calories. It did not add a single unit of anything to your system. What it did was hide something, and that something, you're going to pay it back tonight with interest.
And once you see how the trick works, I don't think you'll look at your afternoon cup the same way ever again. So let's slow this right down. Because to get it, you first have to meet the tiny molecule your brain uses to feel tired in the first place. And here's the thing nobody really tells you. Being tired is not what you think it is. Ready for it? Being tired is not your brain running out of fuel. It's not an empty tank.
Tiredness is a signal, a measurement, and your brain builds that signal out of one specific little molecule with a slightly ugly name, adenosine. Think of adenosine as exhaust. Your brain all day long is burning through energy, a fuel called ATP, just to think, to move you around, to keep the lights on up there. And every time a neuron burns a bit of that fuel, it leaves some scraps behind. And a big chunk of those scraps, adenosine. So the longer you're awake and the harder your brain has been working, the more adenosine piles up in the little gaps between your brain cells. And it drifts around and it settles into these tiny receivers on the surface of the cells. Receptors, they're called. Like a plug sliding into a socket. And every single time one plugs in, it sends the exact same quiet little message: ease off, wind down, you're getting tired. One plug, you'd barely notice, but thousands of them stacking up hour after hour, and that message gets louder and louder. Until by the end of the night, it's basically a roar and you couldn't keep your eyes open to save your life. Scientists actually have a name for this pile-up: sleep pressure. It's a countdown that fills up all day and only drains back down while you sleep. And this, by the way, is exactly why an all-nighter feels like wading through wet concrete. You didn't run out of some fuel and hit empty. Nope. You just let the adenosine stack up mountain high, hour after hour after hour, with no sleep to sweep any of it away. That heavy underwater feeling at 4 in the morning, that's not emptiness. It's the opposite. It's a signal piled up so high you can't see over the top of it. So sit with that a second, because honestly, it's the whole secret. Tiredness isn't a lack of energy. It's a reading. Adenosine is your brain's fuel gauge, a little molecule stacking up to tell you how long you've been running. And a gauge, well, a gauge can be covered up, which finally brings us to caffeine. Here's the sneaky bit. The caffeine molecule just so happens to be shaped almost exactly like adenosine. Not a perfect copy, but close enough that it slots right into the same socket. So you drink your coffee, the caffeine floods up into your brain, and it races over and shoves itself into those adenosine receptors. But, and this is the whole thing, this is everything, it doesn't switch them on, it just plugs the socket and sits there. Does nothing. It's a key that fits the lock perfectly and then just won't turn. And the entire time it's parked there, the real adenosine can't get in. Every plug is taken, so the "you're tired" message, nowhere to go. It never gets sent. And that's the trick. Right there. Nothing about your actual state changed, not one thing. You are exactly as tired as you were a minute ago. The adenosine is still there, still being made, still piling up in your blood with every second that ticks past. Your brain just can't hear it anymore. You don't feel awake because you gained energy. You feel awake because caffeine reached over and hit mute on the alarm. Oh, and there's a bonus round. And it's where a lot of that good feeling actually comes from. See, adenosine is basically your brain's brake pedal, calms everything down. So when caffeine jams that brake, your own get-up-and-go chemicals, your dopamine, your adrenaline, get to run a little wilder than they usually would. That's the lift, the focus, that slightly buzzy, wired little edge. But notice, even that isn't new energy. That's just your own accelerator, running with the brake held off. Okay, so if the tiredness never actually went anywhere, if it only got hidden, then where is it? And this right here is the whole reason this thing is a loan and not a gift. It didn't go anywhere. It's been waiting. The entire time caffeine is plugging up your sockets, the adenosine does not stop. Not for a second. It keeps building. Builds up even more than usual, actually, because now it's had hours to accumulate with absolutely nowhere to dock. Picture a bigger and bigger crowd of the stuff all shoving up against one locked door, and then slowly the caffeine starts to wear off. Your liver chews through it, mostly with a single enzyme, and here's the number that really matters. Caffeine's half-life is around 5 hours, 5, which means 5 hours after your cup, half of it is still swimming around inside you. It takes ages to clear out. But when it finally does, when enough of it's gone that the sockets start popping back open, all of that backed up adenosine, the whole waiting crowd rushes in at once. Every plug fills at the same moment. And your brain, which spent all afternoon happily ignoring how tired you were, suddenly gets handed the entire bill in one go. That's the crash. And it is exactly why a crash can leave you feeling worse, more wiped out than if you'd never touched the coffee to begin with. You didn't dodge the tiredness, you borrowed against it. You took out a little loan of alertness from your future self, and your future self paid it back in full with interest. And the timing of it is sneakier than most people realize. Say you grab a coffee at 3 in the afternoon just to muscle through the slump. 5-hour half-life, so at 8 that evening, a quarter of that caffeine is still floating around up there, quietly holding your sleep signal shut. You lie down at 11, and part of your brain genuinely can't read how tired you are because the socket's still half plugged. So you sleep worse, and you wake up with a pile of adenosine you never cleared, which means you're more tired, which means you reach for a bigger coffee. And round it goes. The loop pulls a little tighter. And if you run that loop every day, something else creeps in. Your brain is not an idiot. It notices its tiredness signal keeps getting blocked, so it adapts. It builds more receptors, more sockets, so that even with caffeine hogging a bunch of them, enough adenosine can still squeeze through to be heard. That's tolerance. And it is a trap, because now you're stuck with all these extra sockets. With your coffee, you feel normal, fine. But the second you skip it, every one of those extra receptors gets flooded with adenosine all at once, and oh, you feel that. The headache, the fog, the total shutdown. That's withdrawal. Your cozy little daily loan quietly turned into a mortgage. So be honest with yourself about what caffeine actually is. It is not a deposit into your energy account. It's a loan taken out against your own tiredness. And it's a loan your body collects on every single time. No exceptions. And it's worth knowing this is really just one trick, wearing 100 different costumes. Your tea, your fancy green matcha, that energy drink sweating away in the fridge, the cola, the scoop of pre-workout, the sleek little pill that swears it'll give you laser focus. Peel off the labels and the marketing, and almost every one of them is doing the same exact thing, caffeine, plugging the same sockets, hiding the same signal, different costume, same loan. And look, I'm not trying to talk you out of coffee, genuinely, I'm not, because a loan can be a fantastic tool when you take it out on purpose. A well-timed cup before a big deadline, a long drive at night, a hard workout. That's you borrowing focus for a moment you actually need it, and that is completely real and honestly, often completely worth it. In normal amounts, caffeine's safe. It's one of the most studied substances on the whole planet, and it even comes with a few genuine perks. So the move isn't to quit. The move is to stop treating it like free energy you can run your entire life on free, and start treating it like what it actually is, a loan, taken on purpose, for a reason. Knowing the bill lands tonight, and you can actually catch the whole thing happening in a single afternoon for yourself. Have a strong coffee at 4 o'clock and notice how sharp, how capable you feel about an hour later. That's the loan arriving. Then, somewhere around 10 that night, notice the weird flatness, that wired but exhausted thing. The way sleep keeps circling the runway and just won't land. That's the repayment. Same day, same cup. You just watched yourself borrow the alertness and hand it right back in real time. And this points at something way bigger than a cup of coffee, because look at what actually happened here. You never once touched your real energy. You reached in and edited the report. You muted a signal without changing the thing the signal was even about. Your tiredness was never some fact you were feeling directly. It was a message, and a message can be blocked, delayed, buried, while the truth underneath it just keeps quietly adding up in the dark, waiting for you. So next time that afternoon cup kicks in and the fog lifts and you get that lovely little lie that you've been topped right back up, now you'll know what's really going on. Nothing got added, something got hidden, and a quiet crowd of tiredness is standing at a locked door, holding your tab, waiting for closing time. Now, I genuinely want to know, what other everyday thing in your life are you treating like free energy when it's really a loan you're going to pay back later? Drop it in the comments. Seriously, do, because a lot of them are hiding in plain sight, and the next video might just be sitting there in your reply. And if you like this thing we do, pulling the hidden machinery out of the ordinary stuff, out of your kitchen, your body, your morning routine, then subscribe and stick around. Your whole world is quietly running on tricks like this one. And it gets a lot more fun once you can actually start to see them.